What is up, gang? Welcome back to Ran When Parked. It is a beautiful day out today, and that is because spring has sprung here in Connecticut. I couldn't be happier. I'm tired of being cooped up in the shop. And most importantly, that means it's time to break my Honeybadger here out, my 63 Ford F250 Cummins Swapped truck. I drive it a lot. Those that have been fans of the channel for a long time know that. I put a ton of miles on this thing. And at the end of last year, before I stopped driving it in the winter, it was showing a little bit of wear and tear, and I want to address some of those things. For one, because I just want to go back to driving this thing. My wife and I enjoy it. We take it out a lot. We put a ton of miles on it on the weekends and stuff. And for two, I'm planning a trip with this thing to go get another project, and I think you guys are going to really, really like that. So you're going to want to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and keep an eye out, because based on the past, I'm pretty sure you guys are really going to enjoy the future when I bring this thing in. So let's look at what's going on with this truck. All right, guys, so first and foremost, we got a little bit of a safety issue going on here, we'll say. So I drove this thing the other day just down to get some lunch, and I noticed the steering had a little play in it, so I just popped the hood today and noticed that my steering knuckle here is awfully loose. I don't know how much you can see that. I'll try to stabilize the camera. Maybe you can hear it. I don't know. But it is very, very loose on that steering shaft. I could probably slide it up and down, actually. Maybe not. Might not be that loose, but it's loose enough that I'm deeply concerned about it. So before we do anything else, and we have quite a few things we want to look at today, I'm going to pop that out and take care of that steering shaft at the top, whatever we got to do to it. Get a new one, or I don't know, maybe I can tighten it up. I seem to remember that that thing is cranked down really tight, and it was always like a little bit questionable, and now it's just worn out. So let's get that thing out of there. All right, guys, so the problem here is that this is like a 1-inch double D shaft, or this side of it is the top side, and it is just smoked. And the reason for that is it's aluminum. It just got like wallered out. That is a technical term, just in case you were wondering. And it's just done. So I'm gonna go ahead. It looks like it's pinned on. I think that's a solid pin. I don't know. I've never seen anything like that before. But I took this shaft out of, I don't even know what. I think half of it is like a Dodge shaft out of the 2500 that I used to get the motor out of for that thing. So I don't know. Like, I pieced this thing together, but it works, and it works well, and it's actually collapsible, so it's safety, you know, safe, that is to say, but needs a new upper joint. I never use these aluminum ones for that exact reason. On the Land Cruiser, as you guys saw in a recent episode, we used all steel ones, but this is aluminum, and it just got worn out. So I'm going to try to drive this pin out and just throw a new one on it. Okay, so I got the pin out, but then the shaft itself wouldn't come off. So I got a little bit more violent with it, with the angle grinder, and just, you know, split the whole thing in half. As it turned out, it had like a rubber sleeve inside it, which is why it wouldn't come off, and it was ancient, so that's that. But it was all for naught, because when I started looking at this thing, I realized that it might be really hard for you guys to see, but right up by this slice here, there are no splines left in that thing. They're just wasted, so I guess this is a lesson. I mean, these are all factory joints, but don't use aluminum joints. Like, use steel stuff. I mean, the aluminum might last, but steel does last. So I counted out those splines and realized this is a 36 spline 3/4. And what's interesting about that is that this shaft that we just made for the Land Cruiser the other day, this guy right here, is also 36 spline 3/4. And that means that it just so happened that I had a 36 spline 3/4 to 3/4 smooth Borgeson joint right here that I used like a year or a year and a half ago as a temporary fix to get this thing driving. So I got that. That'll fit the steering box. And then I bought a 1-inch double D to 3/4 inch smooth Borgeson joint to fit the steering column. And then I had in stock in my metal supply here 3/4 inch solid rod. So what I'm going to do is put one on one end, one on the other end, and make ourselves a brand new steering shaft. Obviously, that's too long. I'm going to have to cut it down. But you guys get the point. Now, how do you make a 3/4 smooth shaft actually work and be safe? Well, that's a good question. I am perfectly comfortable putting it on there and putting a 5/16 bolt right through the center of it and threading it into the other side with some Loctite. That'll be perfectly fine, perfectly safe. This thing had a 5/16 pin through it, so same thing, right? To do that, I'm going to have to, this one's already drilled for a 1/4-20 because I put a 1/4-20 through it just as a temporary measure on the Land Cruiser. Drill one side to a clearance hole, drill one side, and then tap it 5/16. Do the same thing on this one, and then we can assemble one side, put it in the truck, and then see how long this thing has to do. Cut it, has to be, that is, cut it down, put the other end on, paint the whole thing black, and we're done. So let's start with drilling and tapping both of these things. So we have one end installed here. Bolt is through, everything's right in the world. Now all we have to do is take this piece out, slide it onto the steering column in the truck, take this piece, slide it onto the steering box in the truck, and then just align these two things and mark off with a Sharpie where exactly we need to cut this thing to get our length right, and then we are all set. So let's head out to the truck. So we got her installed down in there, and now all we have to do is go ahead and drill our hole right there. I've got it marked off in Sharpie inside there, and this thing's gonna be all set. It's got good clearance above this motor mount. Everything looks pretty good. It's definitely gonna be way safer than it was before and way sturdier than it was before. So let's go drill that hole and then we'll be done. That's it, guys. It's installed. Everything looks about right. The only problem that I almost had is that this bolt comes dangerously close to my motor mount here. So what I might do is, just grind down the motor mount a little bit, like trim the corner off of it, which is no problem at all. But it doesn't hit, so it's really not a problem in the very short term. But it could turn into one later, because when I tighten this bolt all the way, it comes dangerously close to that motor mount. And I don't ever want it to be a problem, obviously. So that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna take this thing off and paint it black. So we're gonna move on to the next project. Okay guys, so I test drove the Honeybadger off camera, and unfortunately the steering shaft is hitting the motor mount pretty hard. It actually, going around one corner, it like locked up on me a little bit. Very unsafe. So we're gonna fix that. And the way we're gonna do it is, we're gonna take the steering shaft back out, and I am going to hope that there's a nice witness mark on the motor mount where the bolt hit, and I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to try to get down there with an angle grinder and cut off the edge of the motor mount, which there's a lot of material in there to remove. And two, I'm probably going to chuck up the bolt in the lathe and turn the head down a little bit so it's a little bit shallower, but still has enough like head on it to get it out and be safe and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and pull this thing apart again. I'm probably not going to show you that because you've seen me do it 2 or 3 times, but I'll show you what the end result is. Okay, so it's off, and just like I was hoping for, there is a beautiful witness mark right there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get a grinder down there, and I am going to take that corner right off the body mount, or motor mount that is to say, and then we should be all in the clear. So let's get that going. All right, guys, so as you saw, we got down in there and ground it off. The corner is pretty much gone now, and I didn't light the truck on fire, which is awesome. What a nice bonus. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw the steering shaft back in there, and we'll take it for another test drive, and we'll see if it works. Steering shaft is back in. It does not hit anymore, and I even painted the motor mount down in there because, you know, I'm an overachiever. So let's move on to the other objectives on the truck. Okay, so the next punch list item on the Honeybadger has been something that's kind of been a thorn in my side for a while, and that is the passenger mirror, which you can tell no longer exists, I guess. So these mirrors, I forget what they're for. I ordered them, they're like 67 to 72 Chevy truck mirrors or something like that. I just found something on Speedway Motors I liked and bought it. And they've been on there ever since. And I mean, the other side, you can see it from here, it's, you know, works pretty well, and they look cool, obviously. Like, they look cool on the truck. I think I made a video on these mirror mounts. I did that like years ago, and that might have been one of the first videos I posted on YouTube. But anyway, the problem with this side is it needs to be angled like way in for me to actually see it and like be able to use it. And that's okay, except because of the way the mirror mount is made, it doesn't let it go in quite far enough, so I have to push it like all the way to its extent, and it just destroys the mirror doing that. So we need to change that angle. And the other thing that's funny about this mirror, I'll just cover, which is why it's gone. Twice in the winter, I came out and it was broken. The first time I thought a stick maybe hit it, because I do have this big oak tree right above this truck. But it happened again this winter, and I realized that because of the angle, this one takes on water a little bit. And you can see it's rusty behind the actual mirror, and that water obviously freezes and then breaks the mirror from the inside. The other one, I'll actually show you, has significantly less angle. It's just kind of at a perfectly comfortable spot relative to the mount. It does not get water in it, and obviously it does not freeze and break. So I have a new mirror for this thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop this mirror mount off, probably throw it in the vise and just try to twist it a little bit. We're going to have to figure out a way to measure how much we twist it, but it just needs to be modified a little bit. Then we'll clean it up, paint it, put a new mirror on it, and we'll be good to go. So let's get this thing off. Well guys, that twisted a whole lot easier than I thought it would. I mean, it's just aluminum plate, but I still thought it would take a little bit more effort than that. So what we're gonna do is just throw it back on the truck and see how it looks. Perfect. So, punch list item number 3 was the compressor under the back of the bed. And you guys might remember a long time ago, I replaced the compressor with a bigger one. It was burned out, it wasn't making any pressure. I also built the airbag system on the Honeybadger with 2 air horn relays so I could adjust it up and down inside the cab. And bottom line, the compressor stopped working again like 6 months ago, and I just never messed with it. I assumed I burned out another compressor, and I was so sure of that that I just took the compressor out, not even on video, because I was just pretty resigned to the fact that I was buying a new one. So I had it out and I put it on the bench, and I was looking at the new one. New one's like $300. I was like, boy, it would be kind of nice if I could figure out what was wrong with this one. And I saw immediately that the intake line had broken, and I don't know if you can see in there, but a mud wasp has gotten inside the intake and filled that thing completely up with dirt. So I'm going to yank that off real quick and show you guys what that looks like from the backside. So it is 100% clogged up with mud. I have no idea how those little mud wasps get inside something like this, but they will get in anywhere. It's unbelievable. So, bottom line, I pulled this thing off, I hooked up to a battery, and it works perfectly fine now. So, crisis averted. I'm really happy about that. Saved me a bunch of time, energy, and most importantly, money. So, I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back in. I also ordered a new air filter and a new line for it. However, we still have two problems that we have to get under there and sort out. One is that when I was under there, I had this thing hardwired. I'm going to put a connector in there so it can be removed. However, I realized that that same wiring that I had used on the FJ40, for those of you that watched that video, that is just garbage wiring and I didn't realize it, and it just corrodes like crazy. That stuff was still wired up to the compressor under the Ford. Now, I wish I had a list of everywhere I used that wiring, because I would go through and just get rid of it. So we're going to be, kind of up against it on that. I got to pull all that wiring out and replace it, because I'm just not going to have that under there. It's risky. And then the second thing is that airbag system always leaked from the manifold where the two solenoids hook up to. So we're going to get the compressor back down in there. We're going to get it all wired up. We're going to pump it up, and then we're going to find out where it leaks and probably wind up going through and taking all the connections out and just resealing them. So let's get going. Okay, guys, so here's the deal. We got our pump out. It's sitting on the ground next to me. I'm going to throw that back up in. I pulled some of this wiring out of here, and the black one seems to be like normal, high-quality TXL or whatever wiring, so I'll stick with that. I'll probably just cut it back a little bit so I don't have two splices here, and then put like a spade connector in, like over by the pump. This one, though, is the crappy wiring that I've been telling you guys about that gets like super corroded. I don't know if you can see that, but the end itself is actually corroded. So I'm just going to cut that back as far as possible, because I'm seeing a fair amount of that wiring tucked up back here, and no, I'm just going to tell you guys I'm not going to replace it all right now. So I'm going to get rid of as much of it as possible. I'm going to seal it up really well. I'm going to plumb it back over, and then we're going to fire this thing up and see if it makes pressure. And although I told you guys that I really need this so I have my airbags back, I really just want my train horns back. I feel like, my neighbors hate me, and it's been quiet lately, so I gotta break out the train horns and get the hatred flowing again. And also, to get the airbags working, I'm gonna have to replace this line up here. I don't know if you can see it, but it apparently melted on the exhaust. So I went and dug through my shed of parts where I put all my junk I don't need anymore, and I found some of that line, so I will replace that one. And then we're going to have to pull the solenoids out of my manifold block here, and we will re-tape up all those joints and make sure they don't leak. And then we're going to be testing this whole system. So let's start reassembling, I guess. Alright guys, so always a pain in the butt wiring upside down like that, but we got it done. Now all we have to do is turn the key on, and there we go. So it's running again. Now I will cut back in 1 minute. I just want to make sure that the pressure switch actually works, because I'm sure I wired it up right before and it was working before, but I just want to make sure it actually shuts off at the right pressure. I'll be right back. All right, so as you guys saw there, the safety switch kicks off. We're operating good. Now there's only one more thing left to check. The train horn still works. Now my neighbors can go back to hating me, and everything is right in the world. Okay, so I'm gonna loom all this stuff up. Obviously, I'll get all the wiring out of the way and make it all nice. There's actually nylon loom right there that I pulled it all out of. I'll put it all back in, but let's talk about how this works. So, for those that didn't watch the original video that I made on this, basically, I have air coming out of the tank right up here. It goes into a fill solenoid right here. That comes out, it goes into a three-way. One of them goes into another two-way up over here, which goes to one airbag on each side. The third is the drain valve, which loops right back around right here and goes into my drain solenoid. So when you click up on the switch in the cab, it opens the fill solenoid, which fills the bags. When you click down on the switch in the cab, it opens the drain solenoid, which drains the bags. And that works like this. So, it used to leak for sure. If I left the bags up, they would just deflate over a period of time, and I don't want that because I don't want to constantly be refilling it while I'm driving. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this one hose, go into the passenger side bag, because like I showed you guys before, it is completely melted right there, and I do have some more of this hose. And then I think I'm just going to switch it on. I'm going to pull the bags all the way up, and then I'm just going to come back in 10 or 15, 20 minutes and see if they are still full. And if they are, then hallelujah, it was leaking from somewhere else and I've already taken care of that. If not, then we will track down the leak. So let me just replace this thing and then inflate the bags. All right, so the new hose is in. Now all we have to do, make sure this thing is full again. We'll let the safety switch shut it off. Alright, now all we have to do, shut the pump off, shut the truck off, and now we'll come back in about 20 minutes and we'll see if A, the back of the truck is still up in the air and the bags are fully inflated, and B, when we turn the pump on, we'll see if it clicks back on. If it doesn't, that means the system is pretty much airtight, we're not leaking anywhere. If it does, we got a leak to track down. So, I will be right back. Okay, so we are back. It's been about 20 minutes, so we are going to turn the key on and test number one. Okay, so the compressor came on. So we're going to turn that off. That means we have a little leak behind the solenoids, at least right there. And now bags down. Okay, so I'm pressing down and the solenoid's open and they're not dropping, which means the bags are already empty. So we have leaks in both locations. So let me get my mat, get back under there, and let's find out where this thing is leaking. Okay, so we got some pressure in the tank up here. I had the compressor running for a second. I filled up both bags, and actually I got under here and I can hear it. I don't know if you guys can. I'll get close to the solenoids. Yeah, I'm not sure where exactly it is. Might be out of both of the, that feed at least is leaking. Maybe this one too, I don't know. But I got some Windex here, so we're gonna look for the bubbles. Oh, that was easy. So that one's leaking, the brass fitting up top. And we got a little leak out of the fitting on the bottom. And that makes sense because that's the feeds to both bags. So That makes perfect sense as to why it's leaking. I don't think, actually, nope, that's the feed from the compressor on this side. That's the feed from the bag. So that makes sense why the bags are draining. This makes sense why the compressor is draining. So that's actually a good solution because it solves both problems. So I'm going to pull those fittings out, reseal them, we'll put it back together. Okay, so I just filled it up, and I don't hear any more leakage, but let's go over to the cab and we'll fill up the bags, and then we'll do the exact same thing. Come back in 20 minutes and see if it's still got air in it. All right, another 20 minutes, we are back. So first test, key is on, turn on the compressor, and that is a good sign. Compressor is not on, which means we killed the leak between the compressor and the bag system. Now, no air in the bags. So it's still leaking out of the bags, and I think I know why. Let's crawl under the back real quick. So this fitting right here, when it went together, I don't really like that fitting. That's not a standard push connect fitting. I don't really know where I got it. I don't even remember putting it on there, to be honest with you. But I don't like it. So I think what I'm going to do is go through my toolbox, see if I can find a standard 1/8 inch NPT to 1/4 inch push connect. If I can, I will replace that. If not, I'll run to the hardware store and try to get one. I don't know if they have them. If they don't, then I'll order one. But either way, I got to replace that fitting. This fitting is good now, though, because the compressor's holding air. So we're at least halfway there. Let's see if we can fix the bag side. All right, guys. So I think I started this video laying under the back of the Honeybadger, and it looks like we're going to end it laying under the back of the Honeybadger. So it's a couple days later, and I got a fitting. I did have to order it. Hardware store didn't have it, which I guess I could have called. So there it is right there. I got rid of this stupid fitting, which like I said before, I don't even remember installing, but it didn't work. It leaked. So all that's left now is to crawl out from under here and take this thing for a test drive. So let's go fire her up. I love this truck. All right, guys, so the Honeybadger is back. It's ready for its next adventure, and you guys are going to see that very soon on another episode of Ran When Parked. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you're thinking, and I will see you guys very soon.